I just, again, Pete's been a successful businessman for the last 20 years. He knows the value of investment, and he knows how important it is. You're not successful as a business if you're having to keep always relying on outside funding to prop you up. Alaska doesn't need a bailout. Alaska needs to be self-sustaining.
I have a really quick yes or no, and it's all it is. It's yes or no. The question is this: were Pete to be there, or if you have or haven't in the past, do you support Alaska investing all of our investments, whether it be permanent fund or other pensions, boosters, etc., from companies who are doing business in Sudan?
Yes.
Okay,
and
that's it. Yes or no? Do you support it? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
That's a really bad way to ask a question. There's a lot of reasons as to why you do it.
You know what? It was just a yes or no. Let's see. Did you have a question?
My quickest thought would be, because this is a tough one, is in relation to this one. Politicians keep dancing around, especially state politics, about this thing about getting all this federal money. Now, coming on with all this federal money comes all this damn federal control. You got to do this and this and this and this to get all this federal money. And I'm sick and tired of our educational system, our transportation system, and all these other things. And we've got to dance to all this stuff the federal government says. And this is what this gentleman was talking about, I believe. And we're not getting answers to what we're going to do as a state to get them off of our back. The Euro Roads may come in and kill half of our game up here, and then makes a reservation out of our state so we can't go and hunt in here. And that's what's happening. I've been up here 40 years, and I am so sick of what the federal government has done to the state, I don't know what to do. And that's sort of what his question was. And it ain't getting answered. And by damn, I want it answered before I leave here today.
What's the question? What are we going to do?
What are we going to do about getting the federal government off our back? Just keep squalling from their money?
So we got one.
And this is our strings, and then pull the strings of what they're going to do to us?
Does anybody have anything on any plan on how to wean ourselves off federal funding?
Well, first of all, that's not something you're going to be able to do in 1 year or 2 years. And as I said, the federal government's cutting back already. But I've been here 43 years, almost 44. And so I remember what it was like before we had a lot of the federal funding that came here. I want to tell you a little bit about the budget. Take a look at the state budget right now. A little more than 1/3 of the state budget is federal dollars. So if you want to cut off a little more than 1/3 of all the money that comes into the state of Alaska is federal dollars. Right now, today. So if we want to do it with all the federal funding, we're going to have to figure out a way where we're going to come up with the other 1/3. Do we have the potential to do that? Yes, we have it. We can do it with the gas pipeline. We can do it with our natural resources, as long as we're the ones that's in control of it, and we're not having to share most of that wealth with the federal government. I mean, there is a way to do it.
I understand.
There's an awful lot that has to be done to get there.
Let's do it.
And do you have a response to this?
I think one of the issues, I think your question on more towards federal control and influence over the state, not necessarily depending on. And I think one of I haven't talked specifically with Pete about it, but I think one of the realities is the federal government owns a lot of land in Alaska. And so the federal government is going to keep trying to exert some degree of control over it. And we need to fight the state legislature. One, we need to make sure that Alaska, that we get all of our statehood selections that we're entitled to under the Alaska Statehood Act process. That, BLM can't keep holding up and giving Alaska the land that we're legally entitled to. And then we just need a legislature this morning to work over the issues and, insist on, that we're going to manage our resources, that we're going to manage our fishing game.
I'd like to make one comment real quick, and we'll do closing statements. The federal government has no right to own any other land than otherwise noted in the Constitution of the United States.
Yes.
Section 8, clause 17.
They can't own anything other than military resolutions. Federal buildings.
All right, so closing statements?
Well, I believe he asked me to ask him one question, but that's fine.
I'm up for a second. I'm
Do you
up
want to
for
ask
3,
one?
4, 5. I don't care.
Okay, well, we'll just make it even it out. As you know, Pete Petersen has been taking time out of his campaign to work on one of the most important issues that constituents talk about going door to door, and that is the high energy costs. And every day when he goes door to door, he gets people who say they don't think they're going to be able to afford it, and it starts 22% increase if it goes in. And now, Pete isn't a legislator yet, so he can't until he's elected, he can't file a bill to, prevent price gouging, or prevent rate increases like this from going through in the future. But you have the opportunity for these last 2 years to introduce something like that to prevent this rate increase. But Pete is doing what he can. He's personally written a letter to the Regulatory Commission. He's encouraging his constituents and supporters to advocate before the Regulatory Commission.
Do you have a question?
Why is Pete having to do your job for you and standing up for your constituents?
That is one of the most absurd statements I believe I've ever heard. Let me tell you what I've done to help with energy. As I told you, we passed a bill to put $450 million into renewable energy. We put $25 million into the intertie for the wind farm. We put, and it goes on and on and on. Hydro, geothermal, we've already done it. We've already started the process. We also passed a $1,200 energy relief rebate. We also increased the amount of money that went to the rural communities to help offset energy. All of those things were done. In terms of the Regulatory Commission of Alaska, that is an independent group. The legislature is prohibited from inserting itself in the process. There's nothing we can do about it. Now, the 22%, we can have the discussions with it, the 22% that NSTAR has asked for, if you saw the ad in the paper, they're a transportation company for gas. They don't make a profit off the gas. They sell it for what they get, they buy for it. Where they make their money is off of installations, they make their money off of the transportation of the product. They charge the same for transporting it, whether it costs them $2 or $40. That's where they make their money, is transportation.
Thanks, Aaron.
Oh, I guess, well, Pete does appreciate that the legislature has started to invest in alternative energy projects. He knows that there's a lot more investment that needs to be done. But he has a serious disagreement with Mr. Rose's over the NSTAR bill. I mean, this is our natural gas we're talking about. And in Japan, it is being, the gas that is shipped to Japan, the Japanese are being charged less money than Alaskans are for our gas. And now NSTAR wants to raise it 22%.
15-second response.
Okay? First of all, it is a bid process. You go in and you commit how much volume of gas you're going to buy, for what period of time, and at what price you're willing to pay. If they have long-standing contracts, they have an obligation, a legal obligation, to fulfill those contracts. And those contracts run out with Asia, their price will go up there.
All right, so closing statements, I believe we started with Mr. Rose's.
So, you start with the closing.
All right, well, thank you for coming and listening to us again. Pete's sorry he wasn't able to be here tonight, and I hope you don't hold my imperfect arguments on his behalf against him. But Pete really wants you to know he is on your side when it comes to energy relief. He's going to fight against our 22% rate increase, and he's going to, Mr. Rosa said, yes, the legislature can't get involved in individual cases, but the legislature writes the rules that govern how the Regulatory Commission works. And Pete's going to make sure that the Regulatory Commission, that we have legislation that allows, that makes the Regulatory Commission of Alaska take into account how it affects Alaskans. Our Constitution requires that Alaska's natural resources be used to the maximum benefit of Alaskans. And Pete strongly believes that it is not to the benefit of Alaskans for NSTAR to be able to raise its rates on Alaskan gas by 22%, which will threaten to put many Alaskans out of their homes.
Thank you. First of all, this isn't uncommon for Mr. Petersen to not show up. We've had 6 debates, he's only made 3 of them. So this is not an unusual occurrence. It is an unusual occurrence to have his campaign manager sit in for him because he writes most of his stuff, so he knows how to answer it. But I will tell you that when it comes to energy and it comes to what's going on in the state, if you want to see lower energy prices, we should not have supported the Trans-Canada contract for the pipeline, because we have limited our opportunity to do our own gas in the state until they're through with what they want to do. We're limited to half a BCF a day. Therefore, we can't do compressed natural gas for cars. We can't do any kind of value-added businesses. We can't put in any petrochemical plants. Therefore, we are dependent on the federal government because we can't develop our own resources. We signed that away when they voted to pass TransCanada and give them the contract. We've got to sit here and wait 10, 12 years until they decide they're done. That's wrong. I voted against it. I would vote against it tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day.